Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cardboard Dragon Reviews, the video review series designed to teach your board game as if you're sitting at the table with me, as well as to provide a review in that game in hopes of helping you decide if that game is right for you. Today we are taking a look at Splendor, which is a game designed for 2 to 4 players. It takes about a half hour to play and is recommended for ages 10 and up. In this game, we're taking on the role of merchants in the Renaissance, and we will be acquiring mines, transportation methods, and different artisans in hopes of gathering at first raw gems and then turning them into more beautiful, more valuable gems in hopes of selling them to some rich folks up here. So that's Splendor in a nutshell. Let's teach you how to play. Alright, so the first thing you need to do when setting up Splendor is get the decks separated. I have mine sleeved in different colors, which is just to help me make it easier. But you'll see, if you don't have them sleeved, there are 3 basic decks of cards. You see there's these green ones here, and they have 1 circle and 1 dot on the bottom. That represents the lowest level deck, and you'll see there's cards that have 2 dots and cards that have 3 dots. You need to separate those by the number of dots in them and combine them and shuffle them together in their matching decks. So all the cards in this pile here have 1 dot in them. All the cards in this pile have 2 dots, and all the cards in this pile have 3 dots. And if you're curious, these are standard size sleeves, so Magic the Gathering size. And that's a good thing about being an old Magic player. You always have a million sleeves lying around from those days. So shuffle up the decks and set them out like this in a column. And then we set the chips out here, but the amount of chips we set out changes with the number of players we play with. So in a full 4-player game, you use all of the chips. In a 3-player game, you need to take out 2 of each color, not including the gold. You always leave the gold at 5, where it is right now. And if you're playing with a 2-player game, which we are going to be doing now, you need to take out 3 of each color, which will leave you a stack of 4. So we'll go ahead and do that. And again, you don't touch the gold, no matter how many players you're playing with. Then what we need to do is we need to take this pile of what are called nobles, and we need to shuffle them up, and we need to put out 1 more than the number of players we're playing with. So because we're playing with 2 here, we will use 3 nobles. In a 3-player game, for instance, we would have 4 nobles out. We'll flip these. There are our 3 nobles for this game, and we set the others aside. We won't be using them. And then we need to flip over 4 cards from each deck in a row beside their matching deck. So just like so. And this is essentially the area where you will buy cards from during the game. And as cards are bought, new ones will be put out in their place from their matching deck. All right. So we also need to randomly pick a starting player. But once we do that, we can begin playing. And I'll show you first what a card looks like and what the symbology on the card means. So if we take a look at this card, we can see in the top right corner there is a blue gem up there, and we can see in the bottom left corner there is what's essentially the price to buy this card: 1 white, 2 green, and 2 red. Okay, and if this card was worth any points, they would be written up in the top left corner, but it's not worth any points. Take a look at this card here. We see that this card is worth 1 point, as indicated by the 1 in the top left corner. The maximum amount of points a card can be worth is 5. So the way this is organized is the bottom row, which are in these white sleeves, which are the cards that have 1 dot on them. These are the cheapest cards to get but usually they're not worth any points. As we can see here, none of these are worth any points. The most points a card in the bottom row will be worth is 1 point, but they're also the cheapest. Then in the middle, we have cards that cost a middle amount and are worth a middle amount of points. And then up here, we have cards that are worth the most points but are the most expensive to buy. So on your turn, you can do 3 things. You can pick up chips, you can buy a card, or you can reserve a card. And you only get to do one of those things on your turn, one of those 3. So let's talk about picking up chips. There are 2 ways to pick up chips. When you're doing the pick up chip action, you can never pick up gold. Gold is wild in this game and can stand in for any other color, but you can't pick it up. We'll talk about how you get gold later. But to pick up chips, there are 2 ways to do it. The first way is to take 3 chips of differing colors. So I could take a blue, a black, and a white. I could not take 2 whites and a black. That's illegal. They have to be different colors. But then the other way to pick up chips is by taking 2 of the same color. However, you can only do this if the stack has 4 or more chips in it before you pick them up. So all these stacks right now have 4 chips in them, so I could take 2 off of any of them. But right now we see blue only has 2 chips in there. I could not take both of them on my turn. I could do the 1, 1, and 1, all of different colors, but I couldn't pick up 2 blues, for instance. That would be illegal. Now you have a hand limit of 10 chips in this game, and when you pick up more that would bring you past 10, you just discard some back to the middle. So you can only have 10, and gold counts against your limit of 10 as well. So that's picking up chips. Now let's talk about buying cards. So when we take a look at a card here, we'll look at this one again. Again, the cost is in the bottom left corner. We see it's 2 reds, it's 2 greens, and it's 1 white. So in order to purchase this card, we need to spend 1 white chip, 2 green chips, and 2 red chips. And we would return those to the middle of the board when we spent them. Then we would get this card, and we'd set it in front of us, and everybody's allowed to see what we have. And then, now that there's an empty spot here, we would flip over a new card. You can only buy 1 card on your turn. Remember, you can only do one of the 3 actions: buy, take chips, or reserve. You can only buy 1 card on your turn. So that would be my entire turn. It would now be the next player's turn. But now that you've bought this, you take a look at the top right-hand corner, and you see there's the blue gem. What that essentially means is you have a discount of 1 blue for all future purchases. You don't get to take a blue chip, it's just an imaginary blue discount you get. So if we take a look at this card here, we can see that the price is 2 white, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 black. However, because we have the card that has a blue gem in the top, we get a 1 blue discount. So the true price now is 2 white, 1 green, and 1 black. We don't have to pay the 1 blue because we have the card that gives us a blue discount. So as you start building up and getting more and more cards, you'll start acquiring more and more discounts to the point where some cards might not cost you anything. And even if a card would be free for you, you can still only take 1 card on your turn. So that's how you buy cards. And again, these are the cheapest, but are worth not very many points. These are middle expensive and worth middle amount of points. And these are the most expensive, but worth the most amount of points. And why points matter in this game is because you're trying to get to 15 points to trigger the end of the game. Okay, so that was buying cards. The last thing you can do is reserve a card. So when you reserve a card, you pick it up, you put it in your hand, and you keep it secret from other people, and then you get to take 1 gold. And again, golds are wild, so they can stand in for any other color when you're trying to make a purchase. And then we have an empty spot here, so we would refill it. Now on future turns, it doesn't have to be the next turn, any future turn, you can buy this card out of your hand as if you had bought it out of the middle of the board here. But only you get to buy this one. So this is a good way to get cards out of the middle you're afraid somebody else is going to buy before you get a chance, or to kind of mess up your opponents by seeing what colors they're going for and trying to get those away from them. So you can hold up to 3 cards in your hand. And when you hold the 3 cards, once you have 3, I should say, you can't get any more cards in this. You can't even pick up and discard. You are allowed to, if you want, reserve a card right off the top of one of the decks without looking at it. That's very risky, but you are allowed to do that if you wish. But once you have 3 cards in your hand, you can't reserve any more. So there's no more ways for you to get gold. Again, you can't just pick up a new card and discard an old one. That's an illegal play. Okay, and then there's only one other thing to talk about in this game, and it's these people who come out, the nobles. So we can see that the nobles have a point value in their top corner, just like cards do. All nobles are worth 3 points. Excuse me, door just rang. Sorry about that. There's somebody at the door trying to drop off some reading materials for me. So let's get back to learning Splendor. So these are the nobles that have come out in this game. And you'll see up in the top corner, just like the cards, they have a point value. All nobles, even the ones we don't have out right now, are worth 3 points. Okay, and then they all have colors at the bottom, just like cards do, but it's not, they don't have a circle there, they have a rectangle around the numbers. So let's take a look at this gentleman in particular. We'll see he has 4 blue and a 4 white. What this means is he wants you to have 4 blue cards and 4 white cards, and if you do, then he will come and visit you and you will score the amount of points listed up top. And when I'm talking about the color of cards, I'm talking about the color of the gem at the top. So for instance, this is a blue card because it has a blue gem at the top. Okay, so at the end of every one of your turns, you need to check, do I have the amount of cards that one of the nobles on the board that hasn't been claimed yet desires? So do I have 4 blue and 4 white? If I do, I take the noble and I set him in front of me, and now I have scored 3 points. And you never lose your nobles. People can't steal them from you. It is possible that you can satisfy the requirements for more than 1 noble on a turn, and if that happens, you only get to take 1 noble on your turn. You have to wait another turn to pick up the other one. So in the meantime, somebody might steal one from you. So here's an example of when that could happen. Let's say we have 4 white cards built, 4 green cards built, and we have 3 blue cards. And then we built a 4th blue card. We would meet the requirements for both of these guys here. But we would only be able to take one of them on this turn, and we'd have to wait another round to get the other one. So again, once somebody claims them, they're gone. Nobody else can get them, and they're worth 3 points each. So the game continues until one of the players scores 15 points. And then it's a similar end game to if you played Zombie Dice or you watched my Mars Attacks video. It's a similar end game to that. So let's say we have a player here who's the first player. He was first in the game, then me, then another player here. So if this player scores 15, I get to go, and then this player gets to go. If I score 15, then only this player gets to go. And if this player scores 15, that ends the game. So essentially, everybody has to have the exact same number of turns in the game. And once that last round completes, whoever has the most points wins. If there happens to be a tie, the person who has the least number of these cards in front of them wins the game. Alright, so that was how you play Splendor. Let's go ahead and get to my review of the game. Alright, final thoughts on Splendor. This is an excellent game. If I was going to bring new people into the hobby, this is definitely one that I would introduce to them to show what modern board games are, because this is a very easy game. But despite it being easy, it's also very, well, fairly deep strategically. There are a lot of interesting decisions that you have to make. And you can sometimes see people's brains burning with trying to figure out what they should be doing on their turn. And component quality is great. These chips are awesome. This makes the game so much more enjoyable, just to be able to do that on your turn. Have that kind of tactile feeling to the chips. But even for people who are more seasoned gamers, there's a lot of strategy here involved in how you play and what you're trying to do. You know, there's people who will focus on only building the cheap cards throughout the entire game so that they have a whole bunch of these, and eventually the cards become very cheap for them, almost free, sometimes free, and then they pick up these nobles here. There are people who will go for only the most expensive cards and try and win that way. And then there are people who will try and see what colors match between these nobles and focus on like 3 colors. We can see 2 of these guys want blue and 2 of them want white. So those would be colors that somebody might focus on. And there's, I'm sure, a ton of other strategies. There's decisions to be made about what cards you reserve to take away from other people and also to protect for yourself. There's so much strategy here, and it's so simple, and that so simple with so much strategy is hard to do. But boy, when it works so well. This game is excellent. Now, my complaints on this game, the theme here, this jewel thing, it adds almost nothing to this game, just because like you don't feel like you're a Renaissance merchant in this game, really. I mean, this game is all mechanics. It's picking up chips and trying to score 15 points. This is a definition of a pasted on theme. You know, this could have been like monsters or something, and you're trying to get different levels of evil so that you can get the big monsters at the top. They could have done a Cthulhu theme or something. You know, at the same time, this kind of generic theme lets it work for people that maybe a theme like Cthulhu might turn them off of the game. But it doesn't feel like you're doing what the theme says you're doing in this game. So that's kind of my only real complaint. Other than that, I give this game a 9 out of 10. And 10 out of 10s on the Board Game Geek rating scale, which I use, are reserved for the same as a 9 out of 10, except you feel that you always want to play them and that's never going to change. I could see a point in time coming where just because of the theme and that this isn't a very deep game, that I might not want to play Splendor. But for right now, I mean, for half an hour, the amount of thinking you do, the amount of strategy involved, such an awesome game. I highly, highly recommend Splendor, especially to new players of board games, of modern board gaming. It's very easy, it's very quick, and there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of learning you can do in this game. So 9 out of 10 for Splendor. This has been Chris for Cardboard Dragon Reviews, and until next time, keep your dice on the table.